Hello, hypothetical audience. I'm JJNW'S, here to give you some hazy cosmic jive. Now today, we're going to try a different kind of jive. I've had a few topics over the past couple weeks that I've wanted to discuss, but I didn't think I really had enough material to make a video about. So what I want to do today is what I'm going to be calling a mashup, where I just take a few different topics that I want to discuss. Some might have a bit more depth to them, others might just be a couple sentences, a couple thoughts, but things that I've been meaning to talk about. So, first off, happy belated Thanksgiving. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed your time off, time with family, time with friends, and time with wonderful food. I guess just to share a few things I'm thankful for. One, of course, the fact that I'm alive. I have a roof over my head, I have access to food, clean water, and to people who love me. I can think of a lot of other things that I want, but not a whole lot of other things that I need, and that's definitely stuff I can be thankful for. Another thing I'm thankful for, on the subject of things that I want, is one of my figures that I bought finally came in. This one right here of Musashi Miyamoto from Fate, specifically from Fate Go. One of my favorite characters from Fate Go, so I'm glad the figure finally showed up. She also came with a sweater, but the sweater doesn't seem to quite fit that well, so I just kind of took it off and went with it. So just a couple other things to talk about as well. So one of the things I had the pleasure of watching was the new South Park special, the post-COVID, I think is what it's called. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. I haven't watched South Park in maybe a couple seasons or so, and I didn't realize how much I missed it. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they do with this setup that they have. I've talked to a few different people about, what do you think about Cartman? Do you think he's actually playing the long game to mess with Kyle? Do you think this is all legitimate? I'm kind of in between. I feel like this probably started off as a joke. And then as time went on and he actually got to know his family and started raising kids, I feel like he started to actually genuinely love them and doesn't want to lose them. Because there's a part at the end of the episode where they find out, what we have to do is go back in time, stop COVID from happening, and then this annoying future that we don't like won't happen. So Stan is down with that because his life is awful. Kyle is down with that because his life is also kind of awful. They have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Cartman is the opposite, though. If he genuinely cares about his family, then he has everything to lose.
Maisha, Hakel, kids, get your things. We need to go now.
What's going on, Dad?
Your Uncle Kyle wants to go back and change things. He's going to try and change the past.
But I like things the way they are.
Me too, Dad. Do you think he'll be able to do it?
No, kids. Fuck Uncle Kyle.
Yay!
Yay,
Fuck Uncle
Daddy!
Kyle!
I don't know if I would say he has nothing to gain, but there's definitely a cost-benefit analysis there. And I'm very interested to see, what his, mindset ends up being. Also, they teased Butters at the end being absolutely insane, and Butters is my favorite character. So I'm very excited for the next part to see what they do with my boy. Just another thing, I got to Act 6 of Homestuck. I started reading it this year, April 13th, I believe, because I was reading with one of my roommates, Jose, and Jose said that you have to do it on that day because that's the first day of Homestuck and it's a recurring day, so I said, fine. I've read it very sporadically throughout the year. I'm taking a bit of a break now that I've gotten to Act 6. It's really weird that I'm on Act 6 of 6, but I'm only halfway through because Act 6 is... What is it? I've seen, some of the table of contents. It's like Act 6, Sub-Act 4, Intermission 3, and just looking at it gives me an aneurysm. I want to continue it because, I'm at this far, I might as well. But Jose, who's already read Homestuck before, he's like, dude, you really don't have to. You probably shouldn't. I talked to another friend of mine who was like, yeah, you really don't need to keep reading it. So if 2 people I know who like Homestuck are telling me it's not going to get any better from it, because I really liked Act 5. But if they're both telling me, no, it's not going to get any better, just cut your losses, it doesn't give me any confidence. But I do still plan on finishing it. Less because I'm so invested in it, and more just to say that I finished Homestuck, if I'm being honest. I am invested, I do find it interesting, but if there's one problem that I have with the style of Homestuck, I guess 2. One is it's just, stuff doesn't really feel conveyed all that well a lot of the time. Like, I remember actually reading like the first and the second recap and going, oh, that's what's happening. Oh, that's the plot. Because there were so many things that were discussed. It's like, when the hell was this ever discussed in the actual panels? Which, I mean, granted, a lot of them are just panels and there's nothing really happening. I mean, in terms of, like, information being conveyed. And a lot of them are just conversations between characters, which some of them are really fun and, you know, do get a lot of good characterization. Others, especially if Dave is involved, just aren't fun to read. I don't like Dave.
Can we pretend that airplanes in the night sky are like shooting stars?
But my other problem with Homestuck is it'll get focused on a scene, and you'll have like a character or 2 having a conversation, and stuff is going on, and we're learning stuff about these people. Like, this is getting really interesting. I'm super invested. Then it will just stop, do something else, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I just don't care about this. I wanted to see where this was going. Why did we stop this? Because it's not like a book where I could actually just, you know, skip to the next chapter, or at least just see, like, all right, how many chapters, how many pages do I have until I get back to the thing I'm interested in. Whether I skip ahead or not, it's nice to at least know. But with the way Homestuck is, I can't do that, or at least I haven't figured out how I can do that. I'm just like, all right, I have to deal with this significantly less interesting thing. Fine. And then I deal with it, and then that starts to build up and will actually get really interesting just to cut away to something else again that I also don't care about. But overall, I am enjoying it. I like it. I wouldn't say that I love it, but we'll see what happens when I continue XX. I also watched the rebuild movies, the rebuild of Evangelion. So for those of you who are unaware, Neon Genesis Evangelion is an anime that came out, I want to say in the 90s. That might be inaccurate. Pretty sure it came out in like the mid to late 90s. It was very popular, very well known, and the ending to the show was very controversial. Some people thought it was, you know, really good, really interesting. Other people thought, this is it? This is what we were building up to for 20 plus episodes? I feel cheated. So, not long after, I don't think it was that long, I think it was only a few years later, a film came out called End of Evangelion, which was essentially redoing the last 2 episodes. And I think it's also kind of controversial. I don't care for it as much. I adore the original ending of the show. End of Evangelion, there's parts of it I really like. Overall, I just don't enjoy it as much, but I know a lot of people do. The rebuild movies, Rebuild of Evangelion, is essentially a reboot of the series, and I don't know why it exists. I'm not sure if it's, you know, the creator saying, this is what I wanted Eva to always be, and now I have the freedom to do it. I don't know if it's just, you know, that was the version of Eva I wrote at that point in my life. If I was writing Eva now, this is what it would be. If it is supposed to be like him trying to fix it, I'm not super sure. But I did watch all 4 films. And I kind of hated them. No, I take that back. I didn't kind of hate them. I actually really hated them. Especially the 4th one. Hold on. I'm going to read, as I watched the last movie with a good friend of mine. He had not seen it yet. Like, we both have seen all the movies, you know, the show. We both really enjoyed the original show. But we watched the last movie together. Okay, this was his review of the movie that he sent to a mutual friend of ours. Quote, "It just ended. I felt like all I did was sit here for 2.5 hours while someone banged a Bible over my head while talking about how 16 is the age of consent in Japan, so it's okay. I honestly can't sum up my disinterest in the last movie any better than that. I do feel like the movies still have their strengths. The third one, just anytime when Shinji and Kaoru are interacting, I think it's great. The fourth movie, when they're in the village, I loved that because it gave me what I felt the movies were lacking, which was just that really strong characterization and character work. Asuka in the rebuild movies is garbage. In the original show, she's a great character. You really get to understand, why she is the way she is. And there's a point in the show where she kind of starts wavering her conviction about herself, and her performance sputters. And as someone who is all about her ability to pilot an Ava, like, without that, I'm nothing. Seeing just her spiral is really interesting. But unfortunately, the movies don't really it's not even that they don't convey that. They just don't do anything with her character. But they look good. They're not absolutely gorgeous, because in the last movie, when they're using CG to show the Avas, it looks disgusting. I don't care what anybody says, the CG portions, or at least the CG Ava fights, look terrible. But when they're not doing that, when they draw the Avas in the normal art style, they look great. And then, when they get really creative, like when insane stuff is happening that admittedly I don't really care about, but when that kind of stuff is happening, like the use of colors is phenomenal in these movies. For just a visual experience, I would highly recommend them. For someone who really likes Evangelion, I would still say watch them. Because I have another friend who absolutely loves them. He's like, no, this to me is the best version of Evangelion. I don't see it myself. But if that's his favorite version of Ava, who am I to, take that from him? So definitely give it a shot, see what you think of it. I personally didn't care for it, but, to each their own. Now, the last thing I wanted to talk about in this mashup is the recent Pokemon game, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. I got Diamond because I like Dialga. This game, it's a remake of Sinnoh, specifically of the original Diamond and Pearl, warts and all, because I've been seeing a lot of stuff online about some glitches, particularly like this janky surfing glitch where you can like surf through the entire map and you can get to things like Shaman, which I know was in the original game. So I know some people are like, oh, this game is a glitchy mess. There's, why is this here? Oh my goodness. I'm like, they went out of their way to recreate glitches from the original game because they wanted to make it as faithful as possible. That's hilarious. The biggest change of the game, at least that I noticed, is of course the experience share. The way original Pokemon games worked from Gen 1 all the way through Gen 5 is if your Pokemon is in battle, it gains XP. If it's not in battle, it doesn't gain anything. And then of course if it faints, it also doesn't gain anything. Starting with Gen 6, every member of the active party will gain experience as long as they're not fainted. And I believe it's if you're in combat, you will gain more experience, whether you dealt a finishing blow or not. It's very divisive. Some people love the XP share because it makes getting through the game quicker. It does away with grinding. Other people don't like it because, they like grinding because it kind of creates a bond with the team, like really making sure each individual member gets to grow, and also for the challenge it adds. I'm in the former camp. I don't like needless grinding. But I understand the second camp too, because I don't feel like the XP share is usually balanced that well. Most of the time when I'm fighting like a gym or even the Elite Four, I find that my team is quite a few levels higher. I mean, it's not something like insane, like 10 levels, but in a Pokemon game, even being like 3 to 4 levels higher can be a death knell to the other person. What I noticed about Brilliant Diamond is for the first like 3 gyms, the XP share is very well balanced. I did not feel like I was horribly over leveled. I was within maybe a level or 2 of the gym leader, which actually made the fights really fun. They still weren't particularly difficult for me, I won't lie, but I felt like, okay, I have to try, I have to take things seriously, I have to be a little cautious. Let's do this. But I think at around the 3rd gym, because that's Maylene, that's a Veilstone, I think you're given the option if you want to go to Veilstone or if you want to challenge Pastoria and fight Crash or Wake. Because the levels of his Pokemon were about the same as Maylene's. And by that point, I had also done, battled a lot of other trainers. So by the time I fought Wake, I was quite a bit higher than his team. And from that point, from about the 4th gym, all the way to the Elite Four, the game was kind of a slog. I'm one-shotting almost everything I fight. The trainers, even the gyms, aren't a challenge. Team Galactic is kind of almost like all of their content is bunched into one portion of the game. It's like, oh, cool, you get to fight Saturn, one of the new commanders. Then you rematch him again, like 20 minutes later. And then you fight the boss of Team Galactic for the first time. And 20 minutes later, you're fighting him again for the epic final confrontation. Like, why is your team so different now? Like, 2 of your Pokemon have evolved. You, caught a new thing. Almost like no time has passed. This is kind of weird. It felt like it lacked any real weight. Also, I kept seeing, the same 4 Pokemon. I'm sorry, I had, a mental breakdown for a quick second, remembering how annoying that was. So you're, having to fight all these Team Galactic grunts, in this hideout, and at Mount Cornet, and it's, go! Wurmple! That's, level 30. Why haven't you evolved this? This is dumb.
I'll shove a Pokeball so far up your butt, it's gonna turn into your brain.
And then you get the ones that do, Silcoon and Cascoon. I've got, my level 40 Silcoon. You can't beat me. There's other Pokemon in Sinnoh, right? I mean, even the ones that do, you basically will just see, Glameow, Stunky, and Krogunk. But Krogunk felt really rare. Glameow and Stunky, I would see them every now and then, and it was honestly kind of a breath of fresh air from all the Wurmples running around. I don't think I saw, any of them using the Starly line or the Bidoof line. But even when you saw these Pokemon, they were never evolved. They were the right level for it, they just didn't. And I feel like the AI in this game is supposed to be good, but then you get shit like that, and I'm like, this is brain dead. I'm sorry. I wanted to love this game, and for the first 3 gyms, I was loving it. And then it's just fine.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
But then you get to the Elite Four, where I was I was fine for the first person, for Aaron the bug guy, but I'll talk about my team in a second, but I had Stealth Rock on my team, which invalidated, most of his. Then there's Birth of the Groundmaster, which I remember her. It was either from Base Diamond or Platinum, I don't remember which, but I think it was her Whiscash had Fissure, and it actually hit on 5 of my 6 Pokemon. The only one it didn't was the Staraptor, because he's flying, he was invincible to it. But the fact that she actually one-shotted 5/6 of my team, I remembered that. Here, she wasn't a huge problem. I didn't have any grass types or grass moves, so her Quagsire was really annoying to deal with. But once Quagsire was done, not a problem. Flint was a little bit, he wasn't super hard, but I remember when he set out his Infernape, it was level 61, and I was like, oh, that's the highest level Pokemon I've seen so far, including my own. I have 2 people left. Oh, this is about him in danger. Then I fought Lucian. Lucian gave me a run for my money. I remember his Bronzong. I forgot how dangerous the Alakazam was. Super fast, nasty plot, so its special attack goes up 2 stages. It was rough, but I got through him. I didn't even see Cynthia's Garchomp on my first playthrough. Just like on my first battle with her. Spirit Tomb was rough. Gastrodon was just this tanky monster. Rose Red I got through no problem. And then Lucario just swept the rest of my team after one nasty plot. Then I rematched. Like, I didn't do any grinding. I was like, okay, I can... Like, we've gotten a few levels from fighting the other people. I think if I go through the Elite Four, again, I'm going to make a couple tweaks. Like, I'm going to teach Jirachi Grass Knot. But I'm going to make a couple small tweaks to my moves, to my items. Let's do it again, and I did it no problem. But my champion team, through the course of the game, there were a couple Pokemon that I wanted to use, but then didn't. Like, I wanted to use an Onix and a Steelix, but I very quickly learned this Pokemon sucks. I wanted to use a Chansey and a Blissey, because I know, like, it's a notoriously tanky Pokemon. So, like, Blissey with Toxic is going to be amazing, but Blissey doesn't learn Toxic anymore. Maybe not anymore, maybe it never learned it, but I could have sworn it did. And I was like, okay, well, maybe like Seismic Toss. And that's like the other good strategy with Blissey. And that's an egg move, so I can't use that either. Guess I'm not going to be using this Pokemon. But so my final 6, my main squad. We had Mr. Popper, the Empoleon. We had Elma, the Gyarados. See, I do like Dragon Maid. We had Selena, the Luxray. Shrek, which was my Drapion, because it's called it's like the Ogre Scorpion, and you also catch him in the Great Marsh, which is a giant swamp. Like, okay, Shrek, that's a perfect name. Polaris, which is what I named Jirachi. I felt a little conflicted about using Jirachi, because the game essentially gives you 3 mythicals. There's the Manaphy Mystery Gift. You can get a Mew if you have any copy or any data from Let's Go, and a Jirachi if you have any data from Sword and Shield. I did get all 3. I used Mew like as soon as I got it, but I was like, I've played with a Mew before in my Soul Silver team. I don't want to use one again. I had Manaphy on my team for a long time, or until about Maylene, and I was like, man, I just don't like having 2 mythicals in my party. That just... It feels kind of icky. 1 is fine, so I stuck with Jirachi. And my 6th and final member was Gastrodon. It did not have a nickname because I didn't think I was going to be using it as a main party member. I caught it because Shellos and Gastrodon, just one of my favorite evolutionary lines, straight up. So I caught it because I love it. And then it was around that time, I was like, man, Onix really sucks. And Shellos and Gastrodon is just one of my favorites. Just gonna switch. And then Gastrodon from that point, so that was like Valley Windward, so super early. Mainstay party member, rest of the game, I just never nicknamed her. So overall, I think the first third of the game, fantastic. The climax of the game, phenomenal. The part in between, I mean, I still had fun because I did really like my party. But man, it just wasn't as good as the rest of the game. But I think that's all I have for today's mashup. Like I said, had quite a few things I wanted to kind of talk about, maybe get off my chest. Nothing super deep, although maybe the Pokemon part actually did run for a while. But that'll be all. I have a couple other videos I want to make as well, so we'll go and end this one here. And, I ain't no DJ, but I'll be seeing you in the sky.